I'm CK. Today we've got an exciting one, being a little sarcastic. This is a do-it-yourself radio kit. IC station FM radio kit. It's an awful tiny FM radio kit. I bet they are using the somewhat ubiquitous single chip FM tuner, but obviously, well, I'm making the assumption that there's not going to be much amplification here, and control-wise, I don't know, I haven't looked in the bag yet. So we'll put it together and see if it actually does work, and I hope you enjoy the video. I picked this kit up from eBay, and it's from China. Let's open the bag. How come I can't even open a simple bag? Okay, we've got some stuff. Okay, we've got, oh, this is from EQ Kit. I've done kits from them before. Here's a build guide. We'll dial that up, and then the circuit board has a couple of switches, channel up, channel down, a couple of electrolytic caps, three inductors, that's interesting, a power switch, resistors, battery, and then J1, which could be the output. Volume up, volume down, or vice versa. So where is the actual chip? Oh, here it is. It's on the back. There it is. And it's surface mount. So yeah, this is that ubiquitous FM tuner chip, which is pretty good. Now we got to figure out how we're going to make an antenna and so on for this. And the it goes out this jack, but we don't have any transistors for amplification, so it may be amplified inside that IC. And we've got some tie wraps, some resistors, and here are two of the inductors. Oh my. And we've got, I'm dumping all this stuff out. We've got the headphone jack, and stuck in the headphone jack is the tuner IC. And probably, again, as I look at this, it probably has an amplification circuit too. It's not individually prepared, and fortunately the pins didn't get bent. So this is an RDA5807FP. We will look that up. So obviously not a bunch of stuff. The external stuff will be a headphone set. Oh, here's a crystal. A little timing crystal. Or is it a... Yeah, that must be a timing crystal. And then we've got 3 volts going in. So we'll bring the build guide up, get the soldering iron heated, and put this interesting little gizmo together. Let's put this little fella together. We'll start with the surface mount chip. It is RDA5807FP. That's a digital FM tuner with automatic gain control. So it is a FM tuner on a chip. I've seen these before. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. I've used these before. I forget what it was. It's somewhere in my library of videos. So I will first get my, because we're going to be doing surface mount, I'll start with my 0.025 diameter fluxed solder from MG Chemical out of Canada. I'm very happy with that. It has served me well for surface mount, and because it's got because it's a single inline or dual inline package, not a resistor or capacitor, I'm going to have to use some of my chip quick flux to make sure I don't bleed across. Now I'm going to try and not get my head in the shot for these, but it's difficult because I'm going to have to look really straight down on it at some point when I line up the chip. So first thing I'll do is just put a little dab of solder on that pad. Then I will switch hands and grab a pair of tweezers. That's the wrong pair of tweezers. I want my tweezers I use for surface mount. Grab the chip, make sure the dot on the chip is in line with the notch mark on the circuit board. Now I'm going to get my head in here because I got to look straight down to make sure all the legs are aligned with the solder pads, and I just tried to heat up that solder ball and I was unable to do it. Line up again. Come on. And it's sunk in. Let it cool. And there we go. It's in place. And it's not going to move, but I want to double check to make sure the pins are still aligned, and they're really not. This side, the side closest to me, is a little bit off. Maybe I could just bend it a little bit. I'd rather do that than try and resolder. Okay, that came out okay. So the pins are all aligned with the solder traces. And one thing I got to get is I got to get a paper towel to wipe the chip quick off my pokey thing when I get, after I put the chip quick down on the board. So open this up. I'm going to go ahead and manually focus down onto the board here, so when my hands get in the way you can still see what I'm doing. Oh, I don't know what the heck I was trying to do there. Okay, that should stay in focus for you even when my hands go in and out. So I'm going to take some of this chip quick soldering resin and put it all along these pins, because what we want to have is a little flux barrier between the pins so the solder doesn't migrate between the pins. And it really works pretty well. It actually, you glob on some flux and you don't have to be too precise. Just kind of jam it in there. Oops. I did get it in a hole I didn't want to get it in, but we'll deal with that in a second. Right now we're just going to get all these legs done. There's all the legs done, and as you can see I got some solder in that hole right there, which is unfortunate, but not too bad. We should be able to solder suck that right back out. Yeah, that cleaned the hole right back out. So I'm going to pick it up, look at it, make sure I've got all the legs down, and I do. So now we'll do the other side. And put a little more chip quick flux on, and as you can see I've done a lot of surface mount, but I still have a ton of flux left because you use such a small amount for the kind of projects we do on this channel. And as I was brushing this on here, my solder just fell. Oh, it didn't fall all the way to the floor. It got caught in my boot. Good. I didn't put as much flux on this side. hopefully I won't have to do cleanup. Hopefully it'll just work. I kind of put the soldering iron tip between the legs, and that distributes the heat pretty well. Oops, this is not flowing. Okay. You got to be careful. You can't, if things aren't working, you got to get out. You don't want to heat this chip up too much. So if you're having trouble soldering a particular leg, just get out, let it cool off a bit, and then move on. And there we go. That is all the legs on that surface mount chip. Now I'm taking a look to make sure I don't think this one's good. I'm going to touch up one of the legs. I'm not going to add more solder. I'm just going to make sure the solder in there flows, and then of course, yes, it does flow. It flows directly between the two legs. So what I'm going to do, put some more flux on there. Now I'm going to have to solder suck that out too. That's okay. That's why we got tools. Yep, that didn't get it. It still didn't get it. Make sure my iron is clean. There we go. All clean. And they're all soldered well. I'll go back to autofocus on the camera. And they do have a build guide. I didn't mention this, but it's a fine build guide. I mean, there's not much to this kit. But it's got good pictures of how it's got a great picture of how everything's supposed to look when you're done, which is always the best thing in the world. I wish every kit maker would just put a simple picture of the completed project so someone can look at it and say, great, I've got everything in and I'm not confused anywhere as to what's going on. So now we're just going to put the rest of the things on. 30K resistor, orange band, so that's a 3, 3, black 3, so that's a 3, a 0, and then 3 more zeros. So that's 30K. Again, you don't have to learn how to read color bands in 2023, which I'm recording this at. You have many tools. I mean, I built this a while ago. Oh gosh, yeah, it's pretty big. This is a calculator, but it also does resistor color bands for you. So if we want to go to color rings, and we've got 4 rings here, so we go to color ring 4, and we do orange, black, orange. You can see it tells you it's 30K, so you don't have to memorize anymore. If you want to, it's fun. I mean, it's in my head because it's what I did when I was, 50 years ago. Actually, more than 50 years ago now. That's sad, isn't it? No, it's not. It's all good. So we've got 3 inductors. These are the 1 microhenry. This one is a 0.1 microhenry. They look like resistors, but you can often tell they bulge a little bit more. Let me come back in a little bit more because this board is so small. They bulge a little more at the ends, so you can usually differentiate them from resistors. But you can read the color bands pretty much the same way you do on resistors, but instead of measuring or telling you what resistance. It's telling you how many microhenries or henries of inductance the part provides. Slap these other two on. Of course, I do have a surface mounted part on the back, so we don't want to toss this around willy-nilly, because we don't want to dislodge it. We won't. You just want to be aware that be a tiny bit gentle with it. I know me talking about being gentle with something, yeah, that always makes sense. Now we'll do some of the caps. There are 3 disc caps, which I'll put on. So 103, which is a decoupling for the chip on the back. They do pack a lot of stuff in a small space. Actually, now we've got a 223. Where does that go? There it goes. 223 picofarad. And then a 24 picofarad. And with all those components on, I'm going to go ahead and solder them, and I'm going to use the rest of this very thin solder because I cut off too much for that one IC. Still got a couple of leads in there that I did not solder that first time away because it was just a forest of leads. We'll put the electrolytic, actually I'm going to put the tactile switches on now. Just cause. Now these are not square, they're slightly rectangular. I mean, a square is a rectangular, but there is a rectangle, but they're not equal sides, length sides, all 4 of them, so you don't put them in incorrectly. If you try, you can force them in, but you really have to stretch some leads out if you try and put it in the wrong way. And if you find yourself fighting with the component going through the holes, then you're probably putting it in wrong. There we go. And I'll go ahead and put the caps on now. They're both 100 microfarad, and there is a clearly marked plus sign for where the long or positive lead goes, and we're going to bend these flat. Now, since the only thing left to put on is the headphone jack, I mean besides the battery, I'm going to not trim leads just yet. This doesn't fit snugly in its holes, so I will rest it on my pinky finger behind the board, do 1 pin. Now as you can see, it's all cattywampus, so what I'll do is I'll just reheat that solder ball, press it down firmly, let it cool, and it's all flat and nice again. Now we can do the other connections on this jack. Now we'll put the battery box on. I've got some AAAs here. I think they're still good. We'll see. Battery goes here. And we'll put that through. Oh, I see what they want to do. They want us to go from the... They really, in the end, they want it mounted like this. That's why there are holes here and why we've got tie wraps to put it around. So I'll put it together the way they are recommending, just so you can see. So we'll pull it through the holes in the circuit board right there. And then double it around. I should trim the wires off, but because I'm never actually going to use this, I'm not going to, because that's just extra time I don't want to spend on it. I can always change it later if I really wanted to. If I really wanted to put this in use somewhere. There's the positive lead. Here's the negative lead going through. I'll put it all down there, and I'm going to go ahead and use the tie wraps and attach the battery box to the back. Oops, gosh darn it, I forgot to put the crystal on. I'm so silly, I'm going to have to cut one of these, put it on there. And the crystal lies down also flat. Don't do like I'm doing and put both leads through the same hole. That won't work very well, will it? So that's the way it's going to look. And now I'm going to use two of these. I have three AAA battery pack here, but I don't know if they're any good. See if we get a 1.5 volts out of this. Oh yeah, we got a good 1.5 volts out of that. So we can use them. Oh gosh. Oh, this is AA, not AAA. Huh. Okay, well, never mind. I know I can put these back in here for safekeeping. And let me go get some AAAs. I mean AAs. What am I talking about here? These are EBL rechargeables. That's what I'm using in my shop for almost everything now. I've got all the appropriate sizes for most of the work I do and recharge them so I'm not throwing out tons of batteries. And EBL I found is my quality wise, I like them the best. So you're not going to be able to hear this. I apologize. I'll set it up for a second. I just want to turn it on and see if I'm getting anything out of this. I think I will, but without an antenna, and I'm kind of in a remote area. Turn power on. Okay, it works perfectly. So let me turn cameras off for a little bit. I gotta set up so you can hear this. So I've got my audio cart and amp plugged in and speaker and all that. So let's turn it on. Power. Turn the volume up.
You can tell me today, that will be receiving something. But sending people to a war country.
So I'm going to change the channel.
Where?
It's 44 and make them dance for fame.
Change channel again.
Power against a corporation, and this is why.
So as you can tell, it's seeking. It's not doing frequency by frequency, which is good. Check the volume. Volume controls work. So that's how it works. And if I put the tie wrap back in, I'll put the tie wrap back in. Oops, I turned it the wrong way. Actually, they gave me 3 tie wraps instead of just 2, so they must have made an assumption that somebody was going to make a mistake like I did in some way or other and give them an extra tie wrap. It doesn't cost much. Of course, trying to get it through with the battery installed is a little bit of a challenge. So take the battery out, silly guy. So that's it. And admittedly, I scoffed at it during the intro, but this is actually a very competent little radio. And very, tiny. With a set of headphones, you'll have just a fine time listening to this anywhere you want. You can create your own little case for it, throw it in your pocket, throw it in a backpack, throw it wherever. And it's going to give you a nice clear signal, and the amplification is very good. So again, I'm impressed with how this actually came out. So if you have a youngster in particular who wants to have a radio with them all the time, you may want to get this for them. And they'll learn a little bit about about surface mount soldering. You got to be, I went quickly because I do it a lot, but it's not hard. Just use some flux between the pins, and you'll find that it's okay. Make sure you have a solder sucker, as you should on your desk, on your workbench anyway, because you always need a solder sucker. So that's it, and it's a good kit, and I hope you enjoyed the video.